There are some experts who believe that this year that people worldwide will be asked to give feedback 250 billion times.
When we talk about Customerville, they do relate it back to this idea of design-driven feedback, especially people that have read your book.
Oh, I love it. Oh, touchdown.
Yes. So, like, when it comes to the idea of design-driven feedback, can you sort of let the viewers know what is it and what does it mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'm glad to see you have bought the book. Counting you and my parents, that means 3 people have it now. So we're off to the races. That's awesome. People talk a lot about surveys, customer experience surveys, and I know you have kind of a skeptical view of feedback surveys, and I think you're right. This may sound odd coming from a guy who's the CEO of a survey company, but I think you're right to be skeptical. I'm going to tell you a number now that's just going to floor you. This year, there are some experts who believe that this year that people worldwide will be asked to give feedback 250 billion times. So just think about that, 250 billion requests to share feedback via a survey. And the problem with that is that surveys are generally terrible. They all look like you're filling out your taxes online or something.
Yeah.
And so I guess the problem with that is this, and this is one of the things, even though we've been in business 15 years ago, we probably fielded the very first real-time customer experience survey on the internet. And our surveys looked terrible for a long time too. They had maybe a company's logo on the top, and then they just asked some questions and you click some buttons and you'd be done. Here is the problem with this. We could never really understand it. We just got more and more fed up with this question of why is it that when people exchange feedback between humans, that's such an elegant and wonderful exchange. I mean, James, think about this. You could have a feedback discussion with somebody where you're angry at each other. You can fight with somebody, right? But somehow leave that discussion feeling closer about the relationship. When people exchange views on something, when one person asks another for feedback, it's very nuanced. It's really a beautiful and elegant interaction. So our question was this: why is it that as soon as we try and scale that using the internet, using the web, the best we seem to be able to do is to create something that looks like you're filling out your taxes online in the Soviet Union or some shit like that, right? And so that was our starting point. Was what's wrong with that? Why did we just decide that measuring customer experience and getting feedback about it really meant we were going to ask somebody to complete a torturous survey? Our answer to that was this idea that we invented called design-driven feedback. We started looking at, in particular, we looked at what works between people when they have a human-to-human feedback discussion that really works and why. And one of your countrymen, Dr. Simon Baron-Cohen, who's a behavioral scientist, had actually done some groundbreaking research on that helped us to understand what are the hallmarks of good person-to-person discussions, even if they're disagreeing with something, even if they're sharing feedback about something that may be uncomfortable. And then the question was, how can we replicate that? How can we go from surveys that are online questionnaires to start making them flex and respond and be emotionally intelligent? And that's actually quite hard, but that's really, if you look at any survey in the world, you'll know if it's a Customerville survey because it's got a lot of art baked into it. It'll flex and respond depending on the circumstances. And that combination of things, of technology and art and behavioral science, is what we call design-driven feedback.